There are quite a few different options when it comes to custom car mats out there, and one of the ones which I've always liked the idea of the most is the quilted leather effect, or the diamond car mat effect as it's often called. Diamond Car Mats is one of the actual brands who sell these. There are more than one brand who sell them though, so I would definitely recommend shopping around, and we're going to come back to that point later on in the video, but the purpose of this review is kind of twofold. One, it's about the fitment, actually putting them in, seeing what they look like, but also my experience with the brand. Would I recommend getting something like this? And if so, what do you need to watch out for? First of all, my initial thoughts were great disappointment. I'll just go straight there and say that. Because even though on Trustpilot, Diamond Car Mats does have a majority of positive reviews, at least 3 out of 5 stars and above, makes up 76% of the votes, however, 1 out of 5 stars is still 22%, and the majority of those bad reviews tend to be about the customer service, rather than the actual mats themselves. Sometimes they arrive ripped, torn, etc., and you can see some of that in other videos online as well. But this is my personal experience. Now, as you can see from the unboxing section of the video, to talk about quality first of all, I actually think they look pretty good. They weren't ripped. There was a little bit of stuffing that you could see in the box, but there were no obvious rips or tears. A little bit of de-threading in certain places, but for me, it was something that I could overlook if they fitted in the car well. Now, there are 3 pieces of advice in particular that I'm going to cover in this video if you do decide to get them. And I'm going to, of course, run through those in the video as well. Now, as far as the fitting goes, you can see 2 videos that I'm going to play here. One is the first time I fitted them in the car, just the loose fit, if you will, to see how they looked. I was very disappointed, to be honest, after that. I contacted Diamond Car Mats by email, immediately requested a refund, and also said to them that I thought they were very bad quality. The front passenger side didn't even seem to fit at all based on its shape. It was almost as if they'd sent me 2 driver's side ones by mistake. But that was cleared up, I believe 2 or 3 days later when they emailed me back. Now, I will say, just to cut into the review of the mats themselves for a second, the biggest issue that I have with these mats is definitely the company behind them. Their customer service was there, but they often take a long time to get back to you. There are things that they bring out, the global pandemic relating to shipping times, etc. So let's get some of that out of the way. First of all, they're not a British company. They may be registered to a private address in England, but everything is shipped from China. So bear that in mind, it will take at least 2 to 3 weeks for you to get it, and that's if it's going well. Shipping time for mine wasn't too bad. It was that kind of time frame. It didn't arrive with a damaged box or anything, so from that point of view, I was pretty fortunate. As far as fitting them themselves, though, I was very disappointed, because it seemed pretty obvious to me that they did not fit the car. There was multiple inches of free play around them, from the front, the back. And as I already said, it didn't even look to me like the passenger one could fit in the car at all. Now, I emailed them about that, as I said, and they actually linked to me a YouTube instructional video from themselves of how to fit them. And of course, it's kind of a universal video because it's for a number of different cars, technically, everything from hatchbacks to SUVs in my case, and to probably a majority of coupes and saloons, stuff like BMW 3 Series and 5 Series, I should imagine tends to be the kind of car that they'd sell a lot of these for. So, I checked out the video, that was all well and good. The small clips, for instance, on the underside of the mats are very important. And as you can see in a comparison video and some images that I'll show later on, they make all the difference as far as the appearance. They stop the flabby, floppy look of the mats and keep them much tighter and tauter within the car. But at the same time, you can take them back out again to clean it, etc. So that actually cleared up a lot of my initial annoyance about it. However, the issue there is there are no instructions in the box, and they don't tell you about the instructions unless you complain about the product. That's bad customer service as far as I'm concerned. They should get ahead of the curve there, at least print off some kind of rough guide. It's not exactly difficult to do, especially when you're paying about £160 to £170, in my case, for instance, for this set. And that's without one for the trunk as well, which is an extra £95. And to put that into rough, US dollars, that's over $200, I mean, comfortably over, I believe, and $100 and something for the boot one. Now, I opted to go without the trunk, because I don't really care about that, but as you could see in the video, the fitment looks, in some cases, pretty bad, in fact, straight up bad. However, After redoing it with the clips and following the video that they said, I actually thankfully found that the front passenger one does indeed fit, and somewhat ironically ended up looking the best out of all of them because it was such a tight fit. One of the reasons why the driver's side doesn't look as good is because there's more going on. You've got pedals to get around, there's a lump toward the left of your leg, I believe, where the gearbox is underneath, etc. Those kind of lumps and bumps are going to cause more of a rippled look. But in the back is where it kind of lets you down. You can see again from some of the footage that I've included that there are clips in the back which technically don't attach to anything because there's nothing to slide them under. And the only way to slide them under the skirting, as they're designed to do, would be to physically fold the mat over on itself and make it look really bad. Also, they tell you specifically to fold the section of those rear mats which would come up behind your calves when you're sitting in the seat. Fold that under the seat, like do a little bit of a tuck there. That doesn't work because the distance between the top of that kind of ridge that's supposed to tuck under the chair and the actual corner of the stitching is simply not high enough to do so. So the mats would be off the ground if you did tuck them under the chair. So that straight up doesn't work. It seems like they definitely put more effort and design into the front mats than they did to the back. In terms of my overall scores here, and then to get to my advice, I would give the front passenger side a 5 out of 5. To me, it looks good, the fitment is good, etc. Ironically, I would give the driver's side a 4, because it's not quite as nice and as snug of a fit as I would have liked. And there is a little bit of a gap there that I'm not a huge fan of, even with the clips being used. The back, though, I'm giving it a 3 at best, because the clips don't work, as I said, and the fitment just isn't good enough. Now, I probably am going to keep and use these because, again, they're good enough, but I would strongly caution you in terms of choosing, in particular, 3 things. One is the brand. As I said, you don't have to go for diamond car mats. There are other brands out there, some of which are even cheaper. Not by much, but still, cheaper is cheaper. Secondly, and this is a hugely important one, choose your colour carefully. Now, I'm a huge fan of bonkers looking interiors. My favourite interiors of any car come from Spyker. Spyker interiors look nuts. They have a lot of quilted leather, exposed gear linkages, a lot of aviation inspired stuff, and I love that kind of look. I love Pagani interiors and Koenigsegg's as well. I like that over the top appearance. However, in hindsight, the brown doesn't go with my interior. I believe that if I had the Touareg that has the tan seats and maybe the half black, half tan dashboard, it would have probably suited it better, but I didn't, and I didn't fully think that through. In hindsight, I would say be very cautious of choosing a bright colour. If you choose something like black, with black stitching, blue stitching, red, or even white, which is what I wish I'd have gone for, black with white stitching, it's much more subtle. It's got a cleaner, classier look, and it hides some of those panel gaps, for instance, that you would otherwise see, such as with mine. Plus, the brown isn't what I was expecting, because to me, I was hoping it was more of a wood tone, or like a truer tan, in effect. It's not exactly the kind of tone that I wanted, so be cautious when it comes to the crazy blues and bright reds and those kind of colours. You really have to make sure it suits the car. As a general rule, black is the safe colour to go with, because much like the colour cream, black pretty much goes with anything. Then the last thing I would recommend is don't expect perfection. Even if you find the exact colour you want and has the exact fitment you want, they never look as good as the photos. Something about these mats never look as good in person as the promo pics do. And that goes for a lot of advertising in general, I know, but when it's something like this that your eye is immediately drawn to, you want to bear that in mind. So my piece of advice there is basically don't get your hopes up too much. They are expensive, they take a long time to get to you in the case of this company. The customer feedback is not that great. I mean, they told me what I needed to know, but only after I specifically asked for it. So, as I said in the thumbnail, be careful. Buyer, not necessarily beware, but buyer, be cautious. Choose your brand effectively, choose your colour effectively, and don't expect too much from it, and you won't be disappointed. For me, I wish I had a different colour, potentially a different brand. They definitely need to have more clear instructions and stuff for customers, and overall, I think the fitment could most definitely be better. Some people would give them the excuse of saying, well, it's custom, so it's not going to be exact. I disagree. a car is a car, and if you've done one Touareg, you should be able to do it again. It's not like the car's a different shape every time you do it. So they clearly haven't done many Touaregs. I believe that's probably why most of the promo shots that they do tend to be stuff like BMW 3 Series or Z4s, because a lot of people probably buy them for that car, and the fitment would get better naturally over time in terms of the templates that they doubtless use. A car that's less used, such as mine, it's probably due to have more panel gaps, etc., as I said. So yes, that is the treacherous part of having something custom made, quote unquote, but again, if you're aware of that, you won't be quite as disappointed. Overall though, of course, if you want to check out other product reviews for kind of crazy automotive and motorcycle related products, this, my Predator helmet for my motorbike, that kind of stuff, then of course check those out on the channel as well, and until next time, I'll see you then. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.